Hello there. I have an idea which I think might help you with your curation. I wondered if you'd come across Maslow's hierarchy of need, whether that might be a method of actually ordering, in addition to what you were already proposing.
Sure.
Given that you could start with the ground needs, the basic needs, move up to psychological, social needs, and then up to self-actualization.
Yeah. Look, I love it. I like when something that I've suggested just takes a life of its own and other people feed in. Fantastic idea. You know, it's a very flexible method. It's not like it has to be a room on anxiety. Let's have a room on anxiety. And that would be absolutely fine too. And you know, you can twiddle it about. It's all. The only thing that really unites this method is it just foregrounds our psychological needs, which, by the way, are different from our ego needs. It's not like, oh, it's all about me then, so all art is just about me. No, it's simply that it starts with the individual and then branches out into, you know, to occupy the broadest socio-political and economic concerns. It doesn't have to be, you know, me and my girlfriend. It can be very, very broad, but it starts with being rooted in the ego. Yeah.
Hi. So, what advice would you have for artists, or perhaps how would you educate artists?
Well, I think that artists have been given a slightly ambiguously good amount of freedom. You know, for most of human history, being an artist left you enormous leeway into how you did stuff, but kept you very chained to a mission. You just knew, you know, it's like, oh, you're a Buddhist artist, well, you know what you're going to be doing tomorrow. You're a Buddha figure. And you might branch out and like a mandala, you know, commission. But, you know, basically it was quite, you know, and if you were in a Christian era, you know, there were a few topics, you know, the resurrection, the Annunciation, but you knew what was on the menu. And then there was a terrific revolt against that in the 19th century, which produced some fantastic results, but it was basically the idea that the individual imagination of the artist should rule what artists get up to. I think we've reached a bit of a dead end on this one, and I think that explains some of the puzzlement that we sometimes feel in gallery settings. We just think, what bit of artist's psyche is this? And, you know, this is really quite peculiar, because in a way the novelty of subject has come to be substituted for originality of treatment of the subject, which is a desperate confusion. You know, artists of the Christian era knew that their topic could be absolutely hackneyed. Oh, another flight from Egypt. Oh, okay, a flight from Egypt again, and everybody had done it. Alain had done it. You know, all done it. But it's a chance for you to give it your go. You know, what are you going to do with the flight from Egypt? It's my thought that actually artists should be bossed around by society, that should give artists. I'm being playful, but I think, you know, it might be quite useful if there were some suggestions about what topics art should deal with. I mean, imagine if it was stated, you know, at the School of Life we do dream about doing this one day. In about 2 years' time, you know, to have a kind of commissioning strategy around art. But imagine if it was said, look, one of the great problems about relationships is people have arguments, but they don't know how to situate those arguments within a spectrum of normal and freakish. So can you help us with this? Can you create some works of art? And it can be video art, it can be performance art, it can be music, whatever, any medium, but can that be the topic? And you set that loose on 100 artists, you get some great stuff. And also, artists are really competitive people. We're all competitive, and it's really great to have some runners in the next door lanes. And you go, oh, look, what's that guy doing? You know, why did the 19th century produce, you know, why were the Impressionists all so good at that time, between 1860 and 1890? You know, why were they all so good? Because they were in a race. They had a mission. It's like, try and capture the movement of leaves in the wind. That's a really good mission for an artist. And if other artists are doing this left and right, it really lends direction. So, a commissioning strategy whereby some of the needs of the psyche are offered up as subjects for artists. And in fact, the most taboo bit of the book that I wrote with John about art is at the back. We give, in the appendix, we give a mission for what we think artists should be making. Very shocking. No one's quite picked up on that yet, but it's there to time the Guardian, right? An article saying how stupid it is. But it seems interesting and important to us. Thank you. Other thoughts?
Question or an idea.
Yeah.
Until more curators convert to your ideas of organizing museums, have you thought about offering guided tours or apps with smartphones that can guide you through a museum?
Yes, absolutely. We have already made an app, and it's called artisttherapy.com. It's free. It's also a website, but you can download it as an app for all kinds of Android and Apple. And it precisely connects you up with works of art in relation to different moments of emotional life. And I think it's rather nice, quite proud of it. And at the School of Life, we've also got, for those of you who are really involved, someone we call a visual arts therapist, which is somebody you go and talk to. We pioneered a service called bibliotherapy a few years ago, which takes your life and conditions, and we draw you up a map of your reading life for the next year, or next 5 years, or next month, or whatever you like, but based on you as a reader. And so we've extended that idea to the visual arts, and so this person is someone to go and see. So we're doing stuff, and then we've got museum shows, and so yeah, absolutely, it's got practical. It's one of my great flaws, but it's what keeps me up at night. That I can't bear ideas that die in books. I think books are a wonderful way to get an idea out, but I think you need something else, and so I'm very keen on things like apps and shows and things, anything to bring an idea to life. So yeah, the more the merrier. Oh, sorry, it's the mic person. Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of interpretation about the firing and necessity and condition of grace and beauty. Is there room in your ideal museum curation for art which disturbs or which provokes or which terrifies?
Yeah. Yeah. So art that provokes, terrifies, disturbs. In a way, this kind of art has the highest prestige in our society now. Elite culture is very enamoured of art that puzzles and disturbs. And there's implicit behind that a diagnosis that the problem that modern society suffers from most is smugness. That we think that everything's fine, and therefore it's the job of the artist to shake us up a bit and show us that no, even though we thought life was beautiful, in fact people are dying and there's terrifying things, and that's the art of to confront or shock the bourgeois. So the bourgeois comes on a Sunday, and from their pleasant, cosseted life, and they walk into the gallery, and their truth is on the wall. And will produce a kind of moment of resistance, which will then open the heart and have a good effect. That society will become more open-minded and tolerant. Now, as you can tell from my tone, I'm ambivalent about this issue. Partly because of its enormous prestige. I absolutely think it's part of what art should do. Do I think it's necessarily the most pressing and the most prestigious by a mile thing that art should do? Not necessarily. So, I'm sort of mixing. Absolutely, there is definitely a role for art that shatters assumptions and that shatters sacred cows, and could do so with violence, and could use things like terror, because it's absolutely one of the resources that art has. So it's part of the armory, but I'm a little bit suspicious of how much that is emphasised to the detriment of some other function, but it's there.
Could I just go back to the beginning, where you...
The Robbie Williams?
Right,
yeah.
Not quite that far back, where you began the debate, if you like, or your lecture with the decline of religion and art there, as coming forward. But I'd love to know your thoughts on, because that's a very, perhaps, British experience in terms of the Christian church, but it's not the case in the majority of the world. Islam is huge, and the great sort of fundamentalist Christians in the southern states of America. So I don't quite know what my question is.
Yes.
But I'm hoping that you can work it out.
you're absolutely right that the world has large billions of believers in it. But I would still maintain that the dominant trends in society are towards secularization. And even within nominally very religious societies like the United States, there is a relationship towards technology, the nation state, the concept of transcendence, which suggests to me that ultimately these societies are becoming secular. Even, I would argue, the way in which the Southern Baptists go about their job. There is not the surrender, the ultimate surrender of the will to a supernatural being that to me is at the core of a certain kind of belief. So, and I think that also those people that one rather horribly calls opinion formers, the opinion formers of 1500 were almost all religious. Nowadays, the leading figures in politics, in the arts and sciences tend to be voices, on the whole, speak from a secular point of view. And so I think there is a genuine gap. And the gap, I think that atheism, I don't want to talk about another book that I wrote about this, but just very briefly, I think that too often the thrust of contemporary atheism has been to try and shake people loose from belief and then to leave it there and to assume that the problem of religion, the issue of religion, is solved once someone says, well, actually, I don't really believe in God anymore. I think this is the beginning rather than the end of the conversation, because religion was, apologies for anyone who's a believer, invented by humans in order to take care or attend to a variety of emotional needs. And those needs continue even when we know there's a bit of a hitch in the tail of the loaves and fishes. In other words, these needs go beyond and survive the collapse of belief. And that's really my argument. We should close it there, so I'm just going to my last bit, really. But that's why I think that culture and art is nowadays perhaps so significant and so important to us, because it's what remains, I believe. It's the bit of life where the deepest questions that used to be addressed by religions can still now be entertained. You don't get them in other arenas. And a lot of what I've been saying today is criticising what I unashamedly call the elite establishment that frames the culture of our civilization, that this culture has been wrongly framed, so that we don't bring enough of ourselves to a reading of Hamlet or Montaigne's essays or Hobbes's Leviathan or the paintings of Titian or the works of Richard Serra or Richard Long. And this, in a way, is what we're constantly doing at the School of Life, trying to stitch that back together again in 100 different ways. And this is what I've been doing with my books ever since I started writing. When I wrote this book called How Proust Can Change Your Life, it's sort of the same thing. Now this is how art can change your life. The content is totally different, I can reassure you. But there's a common unifying theme, which is the need that I think we have, basically because I have, and a few others have joined me in this quest, that we have a variety of psychological needs to which culture is, I think, uniquely fitted to responding, and so long as we get the frame right, we can learn to live and die a little bit more gracefully, with a little less anxiety, with the help of these things. We have to end it there. Thank you so much for singing and for coming along.